You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
All right, everybody, it's that time of year again, time for our annual look back at how you folks voted and thought on the big issues facing the options market in 2025. So relax by a nice warm fire, perhaps grab your beverage of choice, and let's dive in, shall we? We kicked off the year asking you a very simple question. Which asset class do you feel has the most upside potential in 2025? Gave you 4 choices: equities, fixed income, crypto, and vol. And 49.3% of you took it with vol. Very interesting. 22.7% number 2 for crypto. Equities 20%, fixed income 8%. Now, you can look at this 2 different ways. If you talk about the mid-year pop we had in vol around the tariff tantrum, then perhaps vol was right. Of course, crypto had its ups and downs. Fixed income also. Equities were mostly straight up with a little bit of a blip, obviously, in April. So if you want to look at net how they ended the year, then equities were probably the best choice on that bunch. Bitcoin, ETH are all down on the year now. Vol down as well. And fixed income obviously depends where you're hanging out on the curve. So I'm going to go out and say equities was the right choice. But if we allow for a little mid-year selling, then perhaps vol or indeed crypto could have been the good choices in there as well. Moving on to the second week of January, listeners, we had a tie between the Feb 15 puts and the Jan 17 puts, both trading for 26 cents. We said, gun to your head, which one would you rather buy? And you folks went with the Jan 17 puts for 26 cents with about 37.5%. 25% of you wanted to buy the diagonal, though, which is kind of interesting. Looks like those Jan puts were the right answer, but if you bought the Febs, you could have done all right if you got out of them early. Again, if you rode them through expiration. I don't think there's been a single month this year where the 15 puts have paid off in VIX. Again, listen to Vol Views if you want more commentary on the saga that is the VIX 15 puts. Let's keep on going out to January 17th. Listeners have said we've seen a lot of action on the Jan 18-19 call spread. A weird one, $1 wide spread for 8 cents. We said it's an oddly tight spread for VIX. Has us wondering, what do you think? And 66.7%, so exactly 2/3 of you said you want to buy it for 8 cents. 11.1% say you'd rather sell it. 22% said other. What was your other? Fortunately, we don't have time to break down all the others. Let's keep rolling out to January 23rd. Once again, a flash pull in VIX. We said VIX July 50s, back to the upside, trading for 68 cents. At that price, are you buyer, seller, not interested? Or we saw another trade going up, the 1950 1/8 call spread for $1.41, which is how upside spreads in VIX normally trade. And a third of you said you're just not interested in the July 50s. 29.2% wanted to sell them. 27.1% were buyers. Of course, we had that blip, that dust up in vol in April. So if you had the July 50s, you got the heck out of Dodge in April, you probably were looking all right the rest of the year. Through expiration, not so great. Going out to the end of Jan, another VIX flash poll, listeners. Feb 22s traded 75,000 times that morning for 75 cents. We said that's an interesting one. Kind of meaty, but interesting. That price, are you a buyer, seller, or you prefer it in a vertical? 46.7% wanted to buy them straight up. 26.7% preferred them in a vertical. So either buying those Feb 22s and selling something else, or buying something below it. And selling the Feb 22s, only 6.7% of you wanted to sell them. 20% say you're sitting on the sidelines for that one, listeners. VIX did flirt with a 20 handle in the cash in February, but it was later in the month after expiration. So I don't think those 22s came home to roost. Early February, we saw a funky iron condor going up in VIX. A lot of VIX prints on the radar this year. Went up 10,000 times. It was the Feb 14, 16, 17, 19 iron condor expiring on February 19th. Traded for exactly $1. And about a third of you wanted to sell it. A third of you pretty much were not interested at all. 28.6% wanted to buy it. And 4.8% of you, the Weisenheimers out there, said, what's an iron condor? Let's keep going out to later February listeners. February 20th, and it was Palantir time. The Palantir Feb 72 puts expiring end of February on the 28th, so not in the weeklies. Traded for 16 cents. 72. Wow. That price, are you a buyer or sold to you? 45.8% of you wanted to buy the Palantir 72 puts expiring on February 28th. Now, Palantir did get to around 74 in the big sell-off, but that was in April, not in February. So, unfortunately, the nearly half of you that wanted to buy these puts, not a great trade, but then again, you only spent 16 cents. So, a cheap roll of the bones. Back to the upside in VIX listeners. May 75s, trading 36,000 times for 29 cents. Buy them or sold to you. Are you saying 75 WTF? And we had a tie 38.9% exactly with want to buy them. So the 75s again, May had a nice little pop in April. So you were looking better on these. And 75 WTF also got it, weirdly enough, 38.9%. Only 16.7% of you wanted to sell them. 5.6% preferred the May 36.75 vertical for 71 cents, which obviously also traded that day. Keep the flash poll love alive out to the end of February, listeners. February 21st to be precise. We also had the April 15 puts, again, talking about how this 15 put drama has just continued throughout pretty much the entire year in VIX. At that point, they were trading 40,000 times for 35 cents. 39.1% of you wanted to buy those for 35 cents. You hadn't gotten the memo yet that the 15 strike is where money goes to die in VIX. 34.8% said you're not interested, and 26.1% said you wanted to sell them. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that VIX went out a little bit higher around April expiration than the 15 strike. We also saw a few days later, February 24th, listeners, the March 490 puts expiring on the 25th, trading for 28 cents, 150,000 times 490. Think about that level in SPY now, listeners. We said at that price, are you a buyer, size buyer, I should say, sold to you, or are you going to stick with VIX or vol? You're going to stick with crypto. And 46.4% of you were on the right side of history. You said sold to you. 35.7% said you wanted to buy them for size. 14.3% said you're stick with vol. And 3.6% said you're going to stick with crypto. And once again, the timing was a little bit off. We did get close to that 490 strike, but it was a few weeks later in April, not by March 25th, listeners. So selling was the way to go as we keep climbing out to early March, March 3rd, starting to see some dust up, some storm clouds on the horizon from the tariffs, listeners. And we said, appropriate enough, we're seeing a little spice in the market right now. Do you think this has legs, or is it just a dust up? Quite simply, where do you think VIX will close at the end of March? So we said spicy, two choices, north of 20, or mild, below 20. Or we said, right now, it's getting too spicy. I'm going to cash. 53.8% of you said VIX was going to close in the mild camp below 20. 41% saying spicy, above 20. And too spicy, I'm going to cash, 5.1%. And it turned out the spicy camp was the right choice. VIX cash closed 22.28 at the end of March, listeners. So we were starting to get a little bit of spice build up in the market. It also prompted a bunch of people to send us gifts of the Spice Girls, which, hey, we always appreciate that at the end of the day, listeners. Going out that same time, listeners, early March was also the time of the heated debate around the strategic crypto reserve. So we thought we'd put it to you folks. Quite simply, do we need a strategic crypto reserve? Heck yes or hell no. And hell no took it with exactly 2/3, 66.7%. Exactly 1/3 saying heck yes. So our audience saying no to the Strategic Crypto Reserve. This one makes me laugh, listeners, because a few weeks later, I said we got a lot of gifts about the Spice Girls. That prompted a fun intraday flash poll. Who is your favorite Spice Girl? And our audience, you folks couldn't decide. In fact, there were 5 Spice Girls, of course, so we only had to combine 2. And so we gave you Baby, Posh, Scary, or Ginger/Sporty. And it was 40% each for Baby and Posh. Only 10% each for Scary and Ginger and Sporty. So no love for those 3. It's all Baby and Posh. So no love for those 3. Apparently it's all Baby and all Posh all the time. Though we had to write in for all Spice, which is all of them, which I do like. All right, keep going out to mid-March. Listeners, things getting a little bit more interesting in the market heading into the Tariff Tantrum in April. We said April 16 puts now trading 40,000 times for 8 cents. A little bit higher, a little bit richer, a little bit meatier than the 15 puts we were talking about earlier. Just in terms of strike, obviously not in price. We said, that price, are you buyer or sold to you? And you said, 8 cents, I'll take a flyer. 71.4%. Unfortunately, we all know what happened in April, listeners. And that was not the right course of action. VIX cash going out on that day, 32.64. Obviously, the futures looking pretty rich then as well. So no joy on those 16 puts. Going out to March 20th, we talked about Micron. Micron was lighting it up in earnings season. We saw a size print, the April 125, 135 call spread, trading 60,000 times right before the earnings. Paper buying it for 81 cents. We said, hey, what about you folks? You down to buy it, or are you saying sold to you, or I don't care about Micron? And 47.8% of you wanted to buy that. It was a wild strike. The stock, I believe, was well south of the par strike at the time. So 125, 135 seemed kind of wild. 47.8% of you wanted to buy that bad boy for 81 cents. 26.1% wanted to sell it. 26.1% also said you're not really that into Micron. And selling it or not caring about Micron was the right choice. The stock ended up going out $68.80 at expiration. So pretty much half of what you needed to get to have that spread be even remotely relevant. So kind of a wild one in Micron, hence why it was our question of the week that week. It was a hot year for the metals, obviously, and back on March 24th, we saw an interesting print in NAC, aka Northern Dynasty Minerals Limited, ticker symbol NAK. We saw paper buying 7,373 of the NOV 2 calls for 40 cents. We said, that price, are you down for them? And 46.2% of you wanted to buy them. About 46.2% as well. We had a lot of very strange ties this year, which is kind of interesting. About 46% as well saying you're not trading NAC right now. And 7.7% said you'd rather buy the stock. Now, if you bought those calls and rode them through expiration, NAC went out right around $1.50, so not a great trade. If you had a chance to get out of them earlier, though, the stock did get up to nearly $3 on October 14th. So you had a moment, a shining moment in the sun right before expiration to bail on those for some money as we keep climbing up the strike chain in VIX to the April 18 puts. Forget about 15s and 16s. Going all the way up to 18s now in late March. Going up 30,000 times for 64 cents. That price, are you a buyer or sold to you? And 58.8% said selling the 18 puts. No thanks. 41.2% wanted to buy them. Of course, we all know VIX cash going out in the 30 handle in April. So selling the puts was the right way to go. Vodafone jumping on our radar in mid-March as well. We saw 100,000 of the April 10s going up that morning for 24 cents. We said, kind of interesting. You folks down for these? Or you either sell them. And about 58% said you wanted to buy them. 26% said you wanted to sell them. 15.8% said, yeah, don't really love it at that price out there. I'm not going to touch them either way. And we all know what happened in April. Great sucking sound of the market. And that hit Vodafone as well. They did not recover before expiration. Listen, even though they got close, they threatened a 10 handle, but not quite there by April expiration. Didn't get back above a 10 handle until May. So unfortunately, not a winner on those Vodafone calls. We had an interesting chat, I believe it was with Tony Saliba on our Pro Q&A in March as well, about tokenization. And one of the hot areas of that is wine. So we thought we'd ask you folks, would you trade wine if it was available in a liquid, pun intended, tradable form as a tokenized asset? 61.1% of you said no. So you're not down for some liquid wine tokens. 38.9% saying yes. So that was kind of surprising. No love for the wine tokens. Going back to Rivian on the end of March 27th, our buddy the Flowmaster spotted a block of 22,000 of the June 22 half calls going up in Rivian for 22 cents. So a lot of 22s in that one, listeners. So that price, are you a buyer or sold to you, or you'd rather buy the stock, or you're just out on Rivian? 40% of you wanted to buy those straight up. 26.7% said at that point you'd rather buy the stock. By the way, Rivian in March was trading around $13. 20% said you're out on Rivian entirely. Sound like Mr. Overby. And 13.3% saying sold to you. And sold to you was the right answer, listeners. Stock closed $13.57 on June expiration. So no love for those June 22 halves, listeners. On March 28th, we saw a size vertical and size upside trading in VIX for the same price, which is kind of rare. So we thought we'd put it to you folks. April 2030 vertical or the April 22 straight up, both trading for size for 77 cents exactly. So we thought, which way you're going of those two? And 42.1% rather buy the call spread. April 22 straight up, 26.3%. Rather sell the spread, 10.5%, and not down for either, 21.1%. Well, we all know what happened in April, listeners. Both of those worked out. Obviously, the straight calls worked out better, but I think you would have been happy with both at the end of the day, listeners. The end of March brought us back to Palantir. It was the April 60 puts expiring on the 25th, going up for 70 cents. Yes, the 60 puts for 70 cents, trading over 60,000 times. So that price, are you a buyer or sold to you, or are you just staying clear of Palantir right now? 44.1% said you wanted to sell them. That was obviously the right answer. 32.4% saying you wanted to buy them. 23.5% saying you're staying the hell away from Palantir. That was also a decent choice at the time as well. This is one of those questions that resonates pretty strongly right now. On April 7th, Nvidia, DECE par puts, 100 puts, were trading $18. You could have sold those bad boys and pocketed $18. We said, you got to keep them all the way through DECE expiration. We know where Nvidia is right now, well north of the par strike. You want to buy those, sold to you, or you're staying away from Nvidia. Our audience on the right side of history here, 59.2% wanted to sell those puts, and congrats to you if you did. You pocketed $18. Not a bad do, as the kids say. 25% wanted to buy them. You were not feeling the love for Nvidia. 15.8% saying you're staying the heck away from Nvidia. $18. Listen, got to tie up some capital, obviously, but that was a juicy put. Going through right around tax day, listeners, April 14th, we said, do you feel this tariff tantrum will continue to rock the markets through the end of the month? Quite simply, VIX cash at the time was around 35. Will it be higher or lower? At the end of April, 48.7% said you were fading that tariff tantrum involved. It was going to be lower. 28.9% said higher. 22.4% said still kind of vacillating around that 35 handle. And VIX cash ended up going out well below it, 24.70 at the end of April. So our audience, once again, on the right side of history. All right, another December par put trade on the offing in April. This time, April 14th, we went to Apple, listeners. We said, Apple, been on quite the rampage these days. DECE par puts, this time the 200 puts. They were also trading. $18 was the magical level out there. Got to hold it to expiration. Gun to your head. Are you a buyer or sold to you? Sold for $18, 54.5%. So our audience is pretty close to split. 45.5% wanted to buy them. Obviously, we all know where Apple is now, well north of the 200 strike. So once again, selling those puts, pocketing a nice 18 bucks, looking pretty good. Same day, April 14th, we saw the June 16 puts going up for 12 cents, 20,000 times. Said, no, you're getting some duration this time. You like these? A little bit better than the 15 strike we've been making fun of. And 60% of you agreed you wanted to buy them. 40% wanted to sell them. The cash going out on June expiration, listeners, $20.14. So guess what? 16 puts. Didn't quite get there, listeners, but you made the old college try at the end of the day. Let's go back to the upside for the end of April. April 25th, it was the May 75s, changing hands 83,000 times. Again, for that magical price of around 16 cents. And 54.1% of you wanted to buy them. 45.9% said sold to you. This was after the big pop in April, so unfortunately the 75s didn't have a great run after that. The proper answer, as scary as it might be, was sold to you. Weird paper was lighting up the tape around that April timeframe, including off to the realm of Mexican cement, aka Cemex. Ticker symbol CX. We saw at that time 5,000 of the May 6 calls trading for 15 cents. At the time, the stock was right around $6. Said you want to buy them or sold to you, and 2/3 of you, 66.7%, said you wanted to buy those bad boys. And about 16 to 17% each said you want to sell them, or what the heck is Cemex, listeners? And buying them was the right answer, listeners. The stock went out around $7 at expiration. And if you rode it all the way through the end of the year, you pretty much doubled your money. The stock is near $12 now, listeners. So not a bad do, as the kids say. Let's keep crawling on out to Funko. Yes, good old Funko. They've been in the headlines a lot, and not for the best reasons this year. But we said back on April 24th, someone was having a little bit of fun in Funko. They traded 2,000 of the No 5s for 75 cents. Same deal, you know the drill. And 53.3% of you liked those. They wanted to buy them for 75 cents. 26.7% said you want to sell them. And 20% said, I don't like Funko. And unfortunately, that 75 cents could have been put to work better. And unfortunately, not liking fun or selling these bad boys was the right answer. The stock pretty much fell off a cliff back in February of last year. They were trading $13 in February. By March, they were cut in half to about $7. And then by May, they were down to $3, and they've been vacillating in this 3 handle pretty much ever since. So not a great use of capital buying upside in Funko. All right, going out to mid-May now, May 12th. We were hoping the trade war was starting to quiet down a little bit. VIX cash was back below 20. We thought, okay, here we go. Is this real or just the calm before the storm? Quite simply, will VIX cash be above or below 20 in 1 month? Our audience exactly split 50-50 each. They could not make up their minds. The right answer was below 20, but just ever so slightly. VIX cash closed 1802 on June 12th, listeners. So close one there. May 16th, few sessions later, June 70s, trading for size and VIX. 11 cents. Seemed like a wild print. We put it out to you folks. You want to buy them, sell them, naked sell them in a vertical, or not touch them. 44% said don't want to touch them, and that was the right call. Obviously, we know June 70s didn't quite get there. In May, this was the hot option coming out of the OIC conference, listeners. NASDAQ trying to shake up the zero-day game with the proposal to list Mag 7 plus AV Go Zero DTE options. We put it to you folks. Are you excited? You want them to list them now? You don't need more Zero DTE. I have some concerns or others. 46.9% of you wanted them. Say, heck yes, list them now. 28.1% saying you have some concerns. And 25% saying we don't need no more stinking Zero DTE. This was a year where all things quantum were hot, and then cold, and then hot again, and then cold again. And back in May, our good buddy Qubits, aka D-Wave Quantum Inc., was back on the radar, listeners. June 30s, we're trading for nearly $1 for size. We said at that price, are you a buyer sold to you, or you're not touching this name with a 10-foot pole? And about half of you said not touching this thing with a 10-foot pole. 31.3% wanted to buy them. 18.8% wanted to sell them. And selling them, as scary as it might have been, looks like it was the right choice. The stock went out $15.65 on June expiration. Looks like the high it got to in May was around 19 to 20 bucks. So you never really threatened that 30 strike, listeners. Later on that same week, July 50s were trading for size in VIX for 35 cents. Once again, put it to you folks, buy them or sold to you. 51.6% said you wanted to sell them. So another tight split, listeners. 48.4% wanted to buy them. Selling obviously was the right call, as scary as it might have been. We had some fun heading into the summer doldrums, listeners. The beginning of summer, late May. And we said, a raging debate amongst our network co-hosts and guests. Quite simply, which is the better TV show? Also anti-hero TV show. Sopranos or Breaking Bad? Breaking Bad took it, 53.8%. Maybe a little bit of recency bias there. Also, the ending of Sopranos, not great, but I think you can argue the ending of Breaking Bad wasn't great either. But Sopranos, 46.2%. Agree, disagree. Add options is the place to vent your spleen, listeners. Early June, things getting kind of quiet in the market. We said, let's go out to the crypto markets. What is your preferred way to trade Bitcoin in your portfolio? Just going spot? You're going to go IBIT? You're going to go BITO? Or some others? Maybe MSTR? There's a legion of ways you could trade Bitcoin these days. Just buying spot was still the rage back then, 40.6%. 34.4% for IBIT. I wonder if we ran this poll now, if those numbers would be different. 18.8% for other, MSTR, etc., and only 6.3% even then for BITO. June 2nd, that same week, we went back to Uncle Mike's favorite poll question we've ever done, Palantir versus Nvidia. At the time we ran the poll the first time, the stock they're both trading about $106, and no one could make up their minds. It was 50% each wanted to buy Palantir or Nvidia. We said a few months later, things have changed. Nvidia was trading at 138. Palantir was trading at about 132. So we thought we'd give you another chance to stake your claim in one or the other. And Nvidia took it, 60.4%, 39.6% for Palantir. Obviously, both worked out pretty well at the end of the day, so you can't be mad at either. June 2nd, back to crazy VIX upside. July 90s going up for 12 cents. 52.2% of you wanted to buy them. 26.1% said sold to you. 21.7% going perhaps the more judicious route of the vertical seller, not just straight selling upside in VIX. 21.7%. A week later, June 9th, SEP 20 puts lighting it up in VIX for $2.38. Same question, straight buyer or straight seller. 55.6% of you wanted to buy those bad boys. You were getting some duration. This was June 9th, going all the way out to September expiration. I think you could have done all right on the 20 puts between June and September expiration, listeners. Especially given that the cash went out mid-teens around September expiration. Yeah, you were looking pretty good. Same week, June 9th, a fun debate we had on Options Bootcamp with Mr. Dan. Quite simply, what is the best apocalypse asset? This was inspired by all the talk of Bitcoin for the apocalypse, but then again, how are you going to access your Bitcoin, of course, when you can't access your wallets or anything else? No power, no Wi-Fi. So we put it out to you folks. Is it gold or precious metals? Is it diamonds or precious stones? Is it Bitcoin or is it bullets? And 56.3% of you went the bullets route. A third exactly for gold or precious metals. 8.3% still for Bitcoin, only 2.1% for diamonds or precious stones. You think portable wealth would have trumped Bitcoin, but not in our poll. We had a fun crypto degen alert that day as well. 91,000 of the MSTU, this is of course the levered MSTR product, listeners, the D9 calls traded for $2.75. Again, 91,000 times. You want to buy those, or are you just MSTU is for degenerates? And it was funny. All the votes came in straight buyer or MSTU is for degenerates. No one touched naked selling or covered call selling. Nobody cared. It was all about straight buying or this product is for insane people. I hate to break it to you, but MSTU not looking so great right now, listeners, even though there has been a split since we did this poll as well. So kind of an interesting one out there, listeners. But buying upside in MSTU over the long term, usually not the best play out there. This was a fun one, inspired by a debate Dan and I had on boot camp. Which term do you use more in your trading? Back spread, which Dan liked, or ratio spread, which I prefer. And I was glad to see 94.1% of you were on the right side of history. Ratio spread is, of course, the proper terminology, listeners. June 12th, Oracle 250s were trading 3,000 times for 58 cents. At that price, are you a buyer, sold to you, or selling as a covered call? 50% wanted to buy them. Well, we all know what happened with Oracle. That went wild in the next earnings cycle. Well north of 300, got up to close to 350 before falling back to earth a bit. Selling them as a covered call, 33%, and straight sellers, 16.7%. So it was actually interesting. Exactly 50-50 between buying them and selling them in some capacity. Obviously, buying was the right trade, but you had to be quick on the trigger finger to get out of those bad boys, listeners. June 12th, 30,000 of the 17 puts expiring on July 16th went up for 45 cents, and 55.6% of you wanted to sell those bad boys, listeners. A bit of a risky trade given July, not exactly a hot time for VIX action, listeners. And you're probably sweating on these ones because the cash went out in the mid-teens. I'll have to go look and see where Vieiro went out in July, listeners, but probably a little bit of sweat on those bad boys, listeners. June 13th, our favorite Quad U was back. U. If you listen to Options Oddities, you know we love that one on that show, listeners. Great paper out there, wild stuff. This time it was 10,000 of the Quad U, 8 calls expiring next month in January. They went up for 50 cents. So that price, you want to buy them, sold to you, sell them as a covered call, or WTF is Quad U. I ended up taking it. 57.1% of you said WTF is Quad U. I'm guessing you probably know what it is now. 42.9% said you wanted to buy those bad boys, listeners. Obviously still got some time on these, but as we're sitting here right now, Quad U is hanging out at a balmy 14.25, listeners. So I think you'd like those calls for 50 cents right now. Back in mid-June, we saw a dust up in the Middle East. We asked you folks, is this vol? Is it already fading, or is this just the calm before the storm? Quite simply, will the conflict still be impacting VIX and the markets 1 month from now? 55.3% said yes. 44.7% said no. A lot of different ways you can carve this one up, but if you look straight VIX, listeners, VIX was several handles lower at July expiration than it was at June expiration, so straight VIX vol impact. The answer was probably no. Going out to June 20th, SEP 24s going up in VIX 46,000 times for nearly $3, about $2.90. And about 31.6% of you wanted to sell those bad boys straight up. 26.3% wanted to sell them in a vertical. 26.3% also saying you're out on VIX at that point. And 15.8% wanted to buy them straight up. And we didn't really threaten the 24 handle in VIX, listeners. Not really until October of this year again. So the SEPs not getting it done, listeners. We asked you about a week later, after we did that Middle East vol poll, we said, does the U.S. entering the conflict over the weekend change your view on the vol impact of this clash? And about 34.8% said yes, do you think it's going to have more vol impact? About 30% each saying yes, less vol impact, or no change at all. And 4.3% of you said just buy crude. Turned out, again, the vol impact was kind of muted for this event. Going out to Citi. A week later, June 26th, it was the July 90s expiring on the 25th, listeners. Going up 47,000 times for 90 cents. That price, you want to straight buy them, sell them as a vertical, or sell them as a covered call. 35.7% wanted to buy them, and about 21% each for all the other sales. So obviously, if you add up the sales, you're talking about 63, 64%. But the number one choice was buying these bad boys. It looks like buying was the right answer. City stock going out on the 25th, right around 96 bucks. So not a bad do, as the kids say. Let's go out to IBIT, our first IBIT flash poll of the year. On July 7th, the AUG double, AUG 55 straddle was trading for $8.80. That price, are you a buyer, you selling it, or you staying away from IBIT? And 41.7% said sold to you, listeners. 25% wanted to buy it straight up. A third of you exactly saying you're staying the heck away from IBIT. Obviously, you're buying a little over a month, close to 6 weeks in terms of duration. And the stock was around $60, $61 when we posted this. It got up almost to 70 in August timeframe, listeners. So you had a decent run here. If you were judicious with this straddle, you bought it, you could have done all right. If you sold it, again, if you were quick on the exit button, then perhaps you could have done well as well. Looking ahead, July 7th, we said, which asset class has the most upside as we head into the second half of 2025? Was it equities? Was it gold? Was it or metals? Was it fixed income or other? Equities took it 45.8%. That appears to have been the right answer, even though a lot of the run-up in equities came, post-April going into that midsummer period. Gold and metals did really well. Now, if you take the second half of that, forget about gold for a second, but look at silver. Silver had its best performance, really, in the second half of this year. So maybe you could argue metals is the way to go. Fixed income, 14.6%. And then other, the bunch of write-ins for VIX and everything else. So equities did all right, obviously. I'll have to go look and see exactly how much of the gains for the year were this second half of the year. Obviously, we lost some towards the tail end of the year as well. Whereas metals came on strong, especially silver and others. So I might have to say metals was the right choice in hindsight here. Another debate on boot camp. So many debates with that Passarelli guy. Quite simply, is it okay to put ketchup on a hot dog? Yes, it's delicious, or no, it's a sin. I'm glad to see nearly 2/3 of you once again agreeing with me on the right side of history. 63.3% saying yes, it is delicious. 36.7% saying no, it's a sin. You folks, you've been influenced by the Chicago marketing crew. Mid-July, VIX AUG 25-35 vertical going up 52 cents. 61, almost 62% of you wanted to buy it. About 38% said sold to you out there, listeners. 25-35 didn't really threaten that level in August. Kind of a rough one if you did indeed buy it. July 14th, it was the infamous crypto week in Congress. And we said Bitcoin just hit a new all-time high, which raises the question, which crypto asset has the most upside potential in the second half of 2025? Is it Bitcoin, Solana, Ether, or other? 46.9% said Bitcoin, 18.8% said Solana, 31.3% said ETH. Unfortunately, they're all down for the year now, so the second half wasn't great for any of them. The question is, which one lost the most? I might have to go for ETH. ETH really got slammed the second half of this year. It's been quite the roller coaster ride for ETH, so Bitcoin might have lost the least. Solana, I might say probably Bitcoin lost the least of that bunch in the second half of the year. Solana and ETH both had substantial losses from their highs, certainly. So you might have been right on that one, Bitcoin listeners. I'll have to go crunch the numbers and see for sure. Mid-July, sleepy time of the year. We said, what's your favorite name to harvest the old risk premium in right now? AKA sell options. Was it Circle? Was it Palantir? Was it Nvidia or other? Palantir took it. 42.1% say you want to hit the bids in Palantir. 31.6% for Nvidia. 21.1% for Circle, a name I dabbled in a few times. 5.3% for other. A lot of fun others coming in. That same week, Kodak was back on the menu. We saw the SEP 12 halves going up for 15 cents. We said, that price, are you a buyer? Sold to you, sold as a vertical or covered call, or WTF is Kodak. And 59.4% wanted to buy them. 28.1% said, what the F is Kodak? And sold to you 12.5%. Unfortunately, Kodak went out around $6 on September expiration, so not a great buy, listeners. Unity was also a hot name this year, listeners. Ticker symbol U. On July 17th, we saw 10,000 of the July 40s going up, trading as high as 62 cents. We said, those prices, are you a buyer, sold to you, or what the hell is going on in Unity? And that ended up taking it, 53.8%. 30.8% said you wanted to buy them. 15.4% said sold to you. And we got close in July, listeners. Stock right around expiration got up to about almost $37, 36.75 before kind of sputtering out. So the 40s looked like they might have been decent. Perhaps if you bought these and you got out of them aggressively, maybe you scratched or made a little bit of money. But if you held them through expiration and you bought them, no bueno, listeners. Going out to late July, it was the AUG 21s expiring on the 20th in VIX, lighting up the tape for $1.27. 35.3% of you wanted to buy that VIX upside, listeners. So let's go see how that worked out for you. And of course, VIX started August with a 20 handle, so I could see how you might be inspired to want a little bit of VIX upside. Unfortunately, that bid faded by the time we got to expiration. The cash was back to about a 15 handle out there, listeners. So unfortunately, $1.27 for those 21s. No bueno, listeners. That same week, July 21st, we asked you, what is the main challenge facing your options trading right now? Is it too many things to trade? Is it finding the juice to sell? Is it the spreads are too wide? Or is it bad execution or bad fills? And 40.5% said you're having a hard time in July finding the juice to sell. 37.8% said there's too many things to trade. I can't track it all. And close to 11% each coming in for the spreads are too wide and the execution and fills are bad. Back to Circle on July 21st. It was the 445 calls. Remember, the stock went public around 30, shot up to 100 and then 300. And then the 445s were trading on July 21st for 15 cents. Traded 20,000 times. These were expiring on the 25th of July, listeners. We said, you want to buy those, sold to you, or what the hell? And 50% of you exactly said what the hell. And that turned out to be the right answer. Circle never threatened a 445 in the lifespan of the stock, listeners. The all-time high is a little bit shy of $300. So yeah, 445s seemed wild, and that was indeed the case. But that shows you how much of a bid there was in that call wing back in July, listeners. Back in July, we said, hey, Palantir, back to the par puts, this time in Palantir, going up 7,500 times. You're not getting $18 this time. You're getting $4. You want to buy them or sold to you? 61.5% said sold to you, listeners. And we all know how Palantir D's par puts are looking right now. That was a good sale. July 24th, Open, aka Open Door, started lighting up the options tape. We said, hey, are you folks slinging Open? Heck yes, hell no, or just watching the madness? 51.4% of you said, hell no, you're not trading Open. Hell yes, 24.3%. Those are the wild ones. Also 24.3% saying you're enjoying watching the madness. July 28th, we said heading into the dog days of summer, not exactly the best time to buy straddles usually, but we're going to do it anyway. Gun to your head, you got to buy a straddle in one of these names, all August straddles. Which way you going? We gave you the Qs, AUG straddle, approximately $15. These are all at the money straddles. VIX AUG straddle for $3. IBIT for $4.50, or GLD for $8.50. That was a juicy straddle. And 43.2% of you said you wanted to go the VIX route. 27% for IBIT, 21.6% for the Qs, 8.1% for GLD. We talked about IBIT already. They had a good run in August, so you could have done well on that straddle if you were judicious and you bought it. VIX for $3. VIX spent most of August languishing around the 15 handle, so not the best buy, but if you were judicious, you potentially could have gotten out on the put side at least. The Qs had an interesting August, $15 though. I'm not sure if they paid that off. GLD had some ups and downs in August. Not sure they had enough to pay off $8.50 though. Again, this is a highly subjective one. It depends when you entered, when you exited each leg. You can probably make an argument for many of these. But you folks chose VIX, which probably at the end of the day wasn't the best trade. End of July, beginning of August, we said, hey, AUG 18 puts in VIX trading for 93 cents. AUG 25s trading for $1.02. So similar prices, gun to your head, you got to buy one. Which way you going? And you said AUG 18 puts for 93 cents. That ended up being the right trade, listeners. AUG 25s not quite getting there. August 11th, earnings season coming up again. We said, which earnings name are you planning to trade? Options on this week gave you Circle, AMAT, CoreWeave. Remember, they were lighting it up then. Or other, and 45.7% went Circle. That was a big deal. That was one of their early earnings reports. 34.3% for CoreWeave. That was a hot one as well. AMAT, no love for them, only 8.6%. 11.4% for other with a whole bunch of write-ins, listeners. August 7th, we said, which handle will VIX be closer to at the end of August? The 15 handle or the 20 handle. 53.5% of you chose the 20 handle. 46.5% chose the 15 handle. And we all know how it worked out, listeners. VIX at cash at the end of August was right around, pretty much glued to the 15 handle. So 15 was the right choice. Almost half of you chose it, but not quite. We saw the AUG 25 calls expiring on the 20th and VIX going up on August 11th, 30,000 times for 25 cents. We said that price a buyer or sold to you. 60% of you wanted to buy those. I get why, maybe, but unfortunately, not the right side of history there, listeners, either. August 14th, more upside this time in Nove. The Nove 22 is going up 30,000 times for $2.75. That price, 54.2% of you wanted to buy them. 25% said, I'll buy them, but in a vertical. So I'm really going to buy something else and sell these probably. 54.2% said, I'll buy those. 25% said you'll buy them, but as part of a vertical, so sell something else. 20.8% said you want to straight sell them. Nobody wanted to sell them as part of a vertical, which was interesting. Now, you know, we had some dust-ups between August and November expiration, including a nice pop in mid-October, and then a decent run-up again in November, right around the expiration time. So you had a couple opportunities to get rid of these 22s for a decent level. So you probably did all right on this trade, especially if you bailed in October. By the time November came around, decay would have been a factor. August 14th. Dog Days of Summer, listeners. We were debating which Rocky movie was the best with Uncle Mike. Was it Rocky, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, or Rocky 4, which you put in parentheses is the right choice? 55.6% of you went with the original, the Rocky. I get it. It won an Oscar. But the right choice is Rocky 4. We even put it in the poll. So all of you lost except for 16.7% of you who made the right choice. 15 half puts going up in VIX on August 15th, expiring on the 20th. 40 cents for those bad boys. That price, are you a buyer or sold to you? 2/3, 66.7% wanted to buy them. 33.3% wanted to sell them. And it would have been a close one, but probably no cigar for these listeners. VIX cash was flirting around the 15 half level throughout much of August and probably went out around that same level as well. So 40 cents, probably a rough go, listeners. August 18th, we saw the AUG 4 calls trading in open for 35 cents, expiring the end of that week. Quite simply, were you a buyer, sold to you, or not touching open with a 10-foot pole? 45.9% ended up going that way, listeners. And that was the right do, listeners. The stock ended up soaring over $10, but that was in September, not by August expiration. So not touching it or selling them was the right side of history there. August 18th, the $1 million question on everyone's minds, listeners. Are you comfortable buying and holding the SPX right now? 42.6% said yes. 57.4% said no. By the way, the cash in SPX was flirting right around 64.50 at that level, and you thought that level made you uncomfortable, listeners. Once again, August 21st, these 15 puts. People love these 15 puts, listeners. Going up 50,000 times for 24 cents. You know the drill. We want to buy them or sell them. 65%, almost 2/3 said buy them. 35% said sold to you. Of course, those puts are looking good at the end of the year here. Unfortunately, by the time of D's expiration, there still was a little bit of juice left in the market. So I don't think you got your 24 cents for those 15 puts, unfortunately. But you bought a lot of duration. You probably had some fun along the way, listeners. August 25th, we're going out to rig listeners. This is Transocean Limited. We saw the AAPL 3/2 calls going up nearly 40,000 times for 15 cents. And about 2/3 of you wanted to buy those bad boys. You liked them. The stock got up to about 365 in September, listeners. By October, if you rode them all the way to expiration, the stock was around 330, 3.25 again. So unfortunately, not a great do, but you had some brief moments to at least scratch in September, listeners. August 25th, we said the summer doldrums coming to an end. Are we heading towards more activity in the fall or another period of low volatility? Quite simply, which level will VIX hit first? 12 or 20? 12 was aggressive. 39% went 12. 61% went 20. We all know which one won because we haven't kissed the 12 handle this year. So 20 handle it was, and 61% of you on the right side of history. August 25th, our crypto question of the week. Are physically settled crypto derivatives dead? Do you see a need for them, or do you only want cash-settled contracts going forward? And 76.2% said, I only need the cash-settled stuff. Forget the physical. So no love for physical delivery on the crypto front. August 29th, we saw the Halloween October 31 calls going up for 90 cents, 113 times. Yeah. End of August, we saw the Halloween, the October 31st. End of August, August 29th to be precise, we saw the Halloween, the Oct 31 calls going up in VIX 113,000 times for 90 cents. You folks want to buy those bad boys or straight up sell them? And 60% of you said, I'm going to sell those bad boys. And you had to sweat a little bit, especially in mid-October when we started to get a little bit of a dust up in vol. But at the end of the day, selling them was the right way to go, even if you did have to sweat for it a little bit. Going out to September, once again, our old pals, the 15 puts, this time in October, changing hands 40,000 times for 19 cents. Our audience at this point couldn't make up your minds. Exactly 50-50, buy them or sold to you. Obviously, selling them was the right answer. We haven't seen a 15 put really pay off this year in VIX land. This was a fun one. September 5th, D's 110s changing hands 125,000 times for 19 cents. 47.6% of you chose the WTF option. That was the right answer at the end of the day. 28.6% said buy them. 23.8% said sold to you. We had some dust ups between then and the end of the year, and most notably in November, but nothing threatening or really even giving much juice to the 110 calls. September 8th, we were kicking off our inaugural Options Insider Fantasy Football League, which the results of which are just in. Congrats to our good buddy, Mr. Kevin Green from the Schwab Network, who is the winner of the inaugural fantasy football season here. I was first place all season until the very end. You know how that works, listen. Ended up coming in third. Josh Allen did me in, unfortunately. But we asked you back on September 8th, which team is your favorite to make it to the Super Bowl? Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, or Ravens? And 36.8% went the Bills. Given how Josh played for me at the end of the season, that may not be the right choice. September 15th, we said a lot of new players are entering the options market these days. So thought we'd ask you, how long have you been trading options? Less than a year, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, or north of 5 years, and 64.6% going the north of 5 years route. You are the pros, the veterans out there, even though that only really gets you back to the onset of COVID. 16.7% each for 3 to 5 and 1 to 3 years, and only 2.1% saying less than 1 year, even though that was winning when we first posted it. Going out to Intel, September 18th, the 30 puts expiring 1 day later on the 19th, trading 90,000 times for 40 cents. Says a total lottery ticket. Are you a buyer or sold to you? 57.1% of you wanted to buy those Intel puts, listeners. And if you did, you pretty much broke even because the stock went out $29.58. So a lot of action, a lot of noise for not much at the end of the day. September 18th, we're starting to get down there a little bit on the strike chain. This time, the D's 14 puts going up 80,000 times for 11 cents. 71.4% of you wanted to buy those bad boys, which stunned me. We all know how that worked out, listeners. September 22nd, we said there's a movement afoot to change corporate earnings reports from quarterly to twice per year. Do you agree, or do you want to keep it quarterly? And keep it quarterly took it 66.7%. 15.4% saying twice a year is fine. And then 17.9%, we threw a third one in there for fun. You said, how about once a year? Well, that's pretty infrequent. September 25th, Nov 16 puts lighting it up in VIX 20,000 times for 47 cents. 65% of you wanted to buy those bad boys. Unfortunately, November was one of the juicier months this year for VIX, so no love to the downside for those bad boys for you folks out there, listeners. Certainly not below the 16 strike by expiration. Sep 26, we asked you folks, VIX hanging out in the mid-teens while gold is setting new all-time highs almost every day. Remember this period, listeners? A lot of debate about which was the proper fair gauge. We asked you, what is the better gauge of market sentiment right now? 57.6% of you went the gold route. 42.4% chose VIX. Early October 9th to be precise, we said the AAPL 22 is going up for 46 cents. That was the hot VIX trade of the day. That price, are you a buyer or sold to you? And 56.5% of you wanted to buy those bad boys. And we did get a nice little pop in VIX in October. So you probably did all right on those bad boys if you were judicious on your exits. October 3rd, of course, government shutdown time. We said the longest government shutdown in history was 35 days. Will the current shutdown last longer or be shorter? And 50% of you exactly chose longer. That was the right answer. 46.9% went shorter, and 3.1% went our third option. F this, going to cash. Going out to October 13th, the hot VIX trade, 163,000 of the Nov 35s going up for 84 cents. Looks like paper was probably rolling them from October. So that price, would you rather buy them or sold to you? 57.7% said you want to sell those bad boys. 30.8% saying you want to buy them. 11.5% saying Nov 85s. WTF. Again, we had a nice little pop in November, but 35s, you might have had to sweat a little bit during that dust up in November, but at the end of the day, selling them was the right way to go. Going out to October 27th, these 25s going up 80,000 times for $1.28. Our audience couldn't make up their minds. 50% wanted to buy them, 50% wanted to sell them. You know which was the right way to go at the end of the day, listeners. We didn't really threaten a 25 handle pretty much past mid-November this year, listeners. End of October 20th, we said, hey, there's currently a debate about Fed Reserve independence. Quite simply, should the White House have more say in Fed decisions, or should the Fed remain as independent as possible? And 89.5% said no, keep the Fed independent. Only 10.5% saying the White House should have more input on Fed decisions. October 29th, another hot debate this year. PE of the S&P blew past the 30 handle. It was nearly double the long-term average of 16 at that point. We said the last two times we saw such lofty PEs in the S&P was the Great Financial Crisis and the dot-com bubble, two inauspicious periods for the bulls. We said, which raises the question, do these lofty PEs concern you? And 51.2% said, yes, this is crazy. 22% said, nope, who cares about PE? 14.6% said, nope, because AI is changing the game. And 12.2% said, you're whistling past the graveyard. So you're definitely uncomfortable right now, but you're staying long. You're staying with the one who brung you to the dance. November 3rd, we asked you, how are you approaching the SPX or SPY right now in your portfolio? Are you just straight long, straight riding it? Are you long but hedged with some puts? Are you going the stock sub route, so maybe you bailed on the underlying, you're long some calls? Or you're dialing back your position or maybe going into cash altogether? And as of November 3rd, 40.9% of you said you were straight long still. About 18% each for hedged with puts or going the stock sub route, and then 22.7% saying you're reducing your position or going entirely to cash. November 13th, the March 60 calls in silver. Again, that sounded like a wild trade. They went up for $1.90. Talked about these on our TWIFO show. We said, that price, are you a buyer or sold to you? 64.3% of you said sold to you. 7.1% said 60 by March. What the hell? Well, that turned out to be 60 by pretty much the end of this year. So yeah, selling those. Hope you had some underlying to go, because you're getting called away on those bad boys. Will it stay above 60 through March? That's another question. But as of right now, that 60 strike well in the rearview mirror. So that was certainly a wild run out there in silver. November 13th, these 21s in VIX going up 41,000 times for $2. 50% of you wanted to sell them. That was indeed the right side of history. November 13th, listeners, gold, silver, and other precious metals have been on historic runs, which raises the question, can this run continue? If you had to buy and hold options on GLD and SLV through the end of 2026, what are you buying? And you wanted to buy the calls, at the money gold and silver calls, 78.3%. So you think the party is continuing, looking good right now, at least for silver especially. Gold puts and SLV puts 21.7%. November 18th, we were at the FIA Expo. We heard a lot of talk about prediction markets. In particular, the NFL agreed, or the NFL thought that prop bets were too easy to manipulate and should be banned. Do you agree or disagree? 73.3% of you wanted to ban them all. 26.7% disagreed, you wanted to keep them. November 17th, it's been a wild year in crypto, metals, and the equities, but there can be only one winner. Got to buy and hold an at-the-money call in one of these assets through the end of next year. Which way are you going? You going Bitcoin, you going gold, you going the S&P or other. 40% of you going Bitcoin, which is kind of interesting. Gold, 36.7%. S&P, only 13.3%, which is kind of fascinating. Had a lot of write-ins for other, including VIX. I don't think you want to go long-term long VIX, but hey, that's just me. November 20th, DECE, 25.30 vertical going up in VIX. Almost 100,000 times for 37 cents. About 53% of you wanted to buy it. That turned out not to be the best of trades, listeners. And then, of course, around the Thanksgiving week, we said, let's have some fun on a holiday-shortened week. Yes, this was a hot debate as well. Cranberry sauce. Is it an actual side dish, or is it just a glorified topping? Our audience, you folks with no help, exactly 50% each for just a topping, and it's a tasty side dish. So I think we had some of our guests and network co-hosts chime in, and they ended up being split there as well. So I guess no one can make up their minds on the contentious issue that is cranberry sauce. December 1st, prediction binary markets are trending, but the question, where does the trade end and a bet begin? Kalshi says binary should be on everything. Should we limit them to just financial products? And right now, at least as of this poll in beginning of December, 45.5% of you wanted to go trading products only. 36.4% say this makes me nervous. 18.2% said binaries on everything. December 4th, we had another flash poll in silver, this time the 80-85 vertical, trading for size at the CME. This is for February, for 12 cents. It seemed insane a month or two ago. Now 80, sure, why not? And our audience had a hard time making up their minds as well. 37.5% each for buying it straight up and straight up sold to you. Only 25% saying 80, what the hell? Which that was the largest response for 60 a few months earlier. December 8th, the IBIT. 46 puts expiring on the 31st. Trading for size for 68 cents. At that price, are you a buyer or sold to you? 75% of you wanted to sell those bad boys. Only 25% obviously wanted to buy them. If you sold those, you've been sweating. IBIT got down to a 47 handle not that long ago. But if you really want to pick up some IBIT for the end of the year, maybe you like that sale. December 11th, the DECE pars, the 200s. Expiring on the 12th, traded 56,000 times in Oracle for $1.19. We said, that price, are you a buyer or sold to you? Once again, our audience having a hard time making up their minds. Right around 50% each for both listeners and Oracle stock. If you bought those, went out right around 190 on the 12th. So not a great do for the buyers, listeners. More action on VIX downside December 11th. 15 half puts expiring on the 17th. 43,000 times they traded for 19 cents. 85.7% of you wanted to buy those bad boys. 14.3% said sold to you. We all know if you had them now, you'd be happy. Through DECE expiration, a bit of a different story. December 15th, crypto question of the week. Is winter coming for crypto? Are the White Walkers on the horizon, or is this sell-off overdone? 63.6% said winter is coming. Only 36.4% say you want to buy the dip. December 15th, same week, we said silver on a historic run this year, but can it continue? Quite simply, if you have to buy an at-the-money put or call an SLV expiring at the end of 2026, which way are you going? And 52% want to go the call. It's going to be higher. 24% say the put, it will be lower. 24% also saying you're out on metals entirely. We had a fun debate with Brian on our fantasy cast about obvious errors in fantasy. If there is an obvious error and your platform doesn't correct it, Should league commissioners change it or leave it? 57.1% said you should change it. 42.9% said you should leave it. Brian was wrestling with some moral quandaries on that front at the time. And of course, last week, listeners, we had potentially our most divisive question we've ever asked. Quite simply, on this short holiday trading week, what is your favorite Christmas movie? Christmas Story, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, It's a Wonderful Life, or Elf. It's a Wonderful Life took it, 40%. 24% for Elf, a good showing for Elf. 20% for Rudolph. Only 16% for my beloved Christmas Story. Even though I like all of these, I'd have to say my least favorite probably would be It's a Wonderful Life. But there you go. Write-ins, Carly, our number 2 placer on fantasy football, going for the Grinch Jim Carrey version, which is absolutely wild. Die Hard, a lot of write-ins for Die Hard, a lot of write-ins for Home Alone. Write-ins for Caddyshack, that's an interesting one. Not really a Christmas movie to me. Bad Santa, A Christmas Vacation, that was a good suggestion. I ended up watching that over the holiday season as well. And of course, our final question of the week for this year, listeners. Let's look ahead a little bit. What do you think will be the big options story or trend or development of 2026? We gave you 3 options and the infamous other. Of course, write-ins are welcome. Is it going to be 24-hour trading? Is it going to be Tesla and Nvidia getting 0-day options finally? Or is it going to be the binary prediction market still lighting up the tape out there, or something else? And right now, 60% of you saying it's going to be all binaries and predictions next year. 30% are psyched about the Zero DTEs. 10% say 24-hour options trading. No others yet, which is kind of interesting. Get over there at options and make your voice heard. That is going to do it for our questions of the week for 2025. I want to thank all of you who took the time to play along this year. If you voted in any of our polls, thank you. You folks are the reason we do all this after all. Hope you're having a great holiday season. Hope you're having a great end to your year, and we'll look forward to seeing you back over there at options voting in our polls in 2026. Oh yeah, and one final time for the year, stay safe out there, everybody.